Friends, I really want to thank the interviewer who asked these practical questions that truly reflect a candidate experience as a project manager. One of my mentees faced these questions and she is now eagerly waiting for the final offer letter. So stay tuned for valuable insight and insider information on how to navigate such interviews successfully. Our aim is to empower you with the knowledge and the confidence to handle any questions that comes your way. So, friends, these sample answers are drawn from my knowledge and experience, but it's important to note that certain terms or steps may differ from one organization to another. So, I will break down and explain the entire answer step by step in simple terms so that even someone new to the concept can easily understand. But please consider these answers as a starting point. Always incorporate your own experiences, personalize them, and make sure to conduct your due diligence. So with this disclaimer, let's begin. Okay, so the very first question is, you have been appointed as a project manager for a new project, and you have to describe how you would navigate the handover process from a sales team to ensure the smooth transition and set the project up for success. So that's a pretty common normal scenario in any project. So the reason interviewer asked the question about navigating the handover process from the sales team because he wants to understand how the candidate would approach the critical phase of taking over a project to ensure a smooth transfer of responsibility. So let's see the sample answer like what we can do. So the very first thing is, before the handover, I would engage in an in-depth consultation with the sales team. Now, this involves understanding the client expectation, contract terms, and any unique selling point promised during the sales process. The second thing is, I will organize a project kickoff meeting that will involve key stakeholders from the sales, project management, and the technical teams like the SME or other team members who help sales team during the feasibility study. Now, this forum is crucial, very important for aligning everyone on the project objective, scope, and the client specific requirement. The next step is carefully reviewing all the documentation provided by the sales team. So, for example, there is a project proposal, there are contract and scope of work. So, all these things you will get. So, this step ensure a thorough understanding of the commitments made during the sales process. Now, after that, we have to conduct a detailed transition meeting with the sales team to discuss the critical project details. So that will include, for example, client expectations, potential challenges, and any specific point highlighted during the client interaction. Here also we can discuss about some real world examples from the previous project, especially from the same client. So that can also help. The next thing is, now we have to assess the skills and expertise required for the project based on the input from the sales team. So understanding any specific client preference or requirement help us in forming any appropriate project team. After this, we have to also collaborate with the sales team to estimate an initial budget based on the project scope that outlined during the sales process. Now, this estimate provides an early indication of financial expectations and may be refined as the project plan freeze or when we baseline our project plan. After that, we have our risk register. So as a PM, normally we have to utilize insights from the sales team to identify the potential risks and the challenges and the mitigation plan. So the sales team knowledge of client expectations can provide valuable inputs for a more comprehensive risk assessment. And then we have to ensure the alignment between what was promised during the sales process and the project practical deliverables. There are times when sales team promise a lot of things and later on, it's very difficult for us to deliver them. So the clear communication with the sales team is very important to manage the client expectations effectively in a long term. Next step is, as a project manager, now we will have to create a detailed project plan that align with the sales commitment. Now this plan include milestones, timelines, resource allocation. We have to incorporate inputs from the sales team and other project management perspective. So all those things will put in this detailed project plan. And very important thing is we have to take a buy-in from all the stakeholders on this detailed MPP, the Microsoft project plan. Normally I use that. Okay, the last important step is preparing a comprehensive handover documentation that include all the relevant information from the sales team, such as the client preference, expectations, specific project inputs. So this documentation serve as a valuable reference throughout the project life cycle. We can always go back and check that, okay, what has been discussed, reviewed, agreed between the client, between the sales team, between us. So it's again a very important part in this complete process. So yeah, these are the main steps, and let's move on to the next question. Okay, so the next question is, how do you approach the onboarding process for your team? So see, all these things are somehow go hand in hand parallelly. So the onboarding process, basically, you have to collaborate uh, with TA or HR team. uh, Existing team members are already there who are also participate. So basically project manager the very first step, the project manager collaborate with the TA team to identify and recruit the team members. So for example, developers, scrum master, PO, and architects, whatever is required in that project. So this involves providing the input on the required skill set, experience level, and any specific qualification needed for each role. So this we have to prepare. Now the project manager, in coordination with the TA team, define the roles and responsibilities for each team members based on the project needs. So the TA and the project manager identify the subject matter expert SME having the relevant skill set, and this SME will lead the initial technical interviews round. Now the interview will happen. So the project manager actively participate in the interview process, working closely with the TA team to assess the candidate. And during the interviews, the project manager also not only evaluate any technical skills, but also the cultural fit and the alignment with the project goals and values. So that's again an important part. The important thing over here is that the job description, we should have a clear job description, and the expectations must be communicated to the potential candidate during the recruitment process. Sometimes there are a lot of things which are promised by the project manager, which is not good, like we'll send you to on-site and this and that. But that's what. So whether sometimes candidate have that, wish to go to on-site, but the project is, we don't have any opportunity. So all those things should be discussed during this process. So friends, important thing is the SME which we have talked about over here is different from the previous SME. Those SME mostly given by the Center of Excellence to help the sales people in bidding. So don't be confused. This SME which we discuss over here is different. Yeah, different in the sense like now he's going to be part of our team maybe going forward, something like that. So don't be confused with those two terms. Okay. Now, after the interview process is over, once teams are selected, the project manager, sorry, once the, yeah, so once the interview process is over, now the project manager in collaboration with the PMO team facilitate the formation of the project team. Now this involved introducing the team members to each other, communicating the team is structured, who is going to do what, all those reportings and everything we will have to form. And of course the communication channel, like who is who, what kind of how we do the communication, if we are geographical distributed, So at what time, which is the preferred way of communication, all those things we discuss over here. So the next important thing is the project manager along with the leads of example scrum master, product owner, or architect, they conduct the onboarding session for the new team members. Now these sessions cover an overview of the project, team dynamics, communication protocols, and any specific process or tools which is used within the project. Now the project manager along with the PO take the lead in introducing the new team members to the overall goals and the objective of the project. Now, this includes providing the insight into the project significance, importance, client expectations, and how the each team member contribute to its success. Sometimes PO is a part of our organization, sometimes PO is a client. So it's a initial responsibility of project manager to lead that conversation to at least show the vision of that particular project because the product manager is involved in all these things since beginning. Okay, after that onboarding, what else? Yeah so scrum master, PO, and architect play a important role in mentoring and transferring the knowledge to new team members. So they help familiarize the new team member with the project specific technologies, methodologies, and the best practices. So all these things are happen in the onboarding process. Now the other thing is, now scrum master and PO owner, PO work together to integrate the new team members into the agile processes. So this is include explaining the sprint cycle, daily scrum calls, sprint planning, and the other agile events. So the project manager actively promote communication and team building among the new and the existing team members. So this could involve team building activities, collaborative sessions, and establishment of the open communication channel. So all those things are is again come under the purview of a project manager. Now everything is now done. The final thing which is there in the part of this onboarding session, which is again important, is establish a feedback mechanism to gather the input from both the new and the existing team members. Now this will identify any challenges or concerns during the onboarding process. So this is the next question. This is on risk management. So we have covered different kind of risk in the past, so I'm not going to take much time on this question. uh, for sake of giving answer, I'll just give you two simple risk. So one common risk is related with technology integration challenges. So let's say integrating the mobile app with the existing banking systems and third party service may pose some technical challenges. So how we are going to mitigate them? First, we have to conduct a comprehensive technology assessment before the development to identify the potential integration points. And then we have to establish a strong collaboration with the IT teams to manage the existing systems. The third thing is we have to implement a robust testing environment to address integration issues during the development rather than the post launch. Other risk is project team turnover. So it's again very common risk. So uh, unexpected turnover within the project team could result in a loss of critical knowledge and skills. So what you can do mitigation? So we have to cross train team members to ensure the redundancy in the key skill areas. We have to implement a robust documentation practices to capture the project knowledge, and we have to maintain a positive team culture and provide a professional development opportunities to enhance the team member satisfaction and retention. So these are the few mitigation things which we can do. Okay, I'm not spending much time on this question. Let's move on. Okay, so before we move on, small request, friends, just hit that like button. So it's not only motivate us, but also inform the YouTube algo that you value our content. And in turn, YouTube share these videos with other people like you. So please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more insightful content like this. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, so this is an interesting one. What types of direct and indirect cost are there in the software project? Okay, so see, this question helps assess the candidate understanding of the project management fundamentals. So that include that their ability to identify, categorize, and plan for the various costs associated with the software development project. Now, the direct and indirect cost uh, with software project can vary based on the project size, complexity, and specific requirement. Still, let me try to cover. Let's talk about the direct cost. So when we have a direct cost, the very first one, which is definitely going to take most of our cost, is our employee cost or the personal cost or the labor cost, like that. So all the salaries and wages for the project team members, right, including all the roles, developer, project manager, tester, and blah blah blah, all the roles, right? So that will come under employees cost. So approximate 40 to 60% of the overall project cost come under this head. Then we have software licenses and tools. So all the costs associated with the purchasing or licensing software tools, development environments, and other necessary applications all come under this particular head. So typically 5 to 15% of the overall project cost come under this head. Then we have a hardware cost. So expenses related with the purchase or maintenance of hardware. We have servers, we have workstation, and any computing equipments basically. So approximately again 5 to 10% of the overall project cost come under this particular head. Then we again have something called third party services. So there are few costs for external services. So for example, consulting, training, or any specialized expertise required for that specific project. So typically 5 to 15% of the overall project cost considered under this head. Then we have something called material and supplies. So cost of materials and supplies. So for example, there are documentation, all those sticky notes, stationery, and all consumable items by the projects basically, right? So typically 1 to 5% of the overall project cost come under this head. Now then we have something called indirect cost. So overhead cost. For example, general organizational overhead costs like office space, utilities, insurance, administrative expenses, right? So all this also come under this overhead cost. Again, typically 10 to 20% of the overall project cost come under this. Then we have training and development. So cost associated with training team members or stakeholders on any new technology or methodology or any tool, that will come under this. So typically 2 to 5% of the overall project cost will come under this. Then we have project management cost. So cost with the project management activities like project management tools, communication, coordination effort, typically 5 to 10% of the overall project cost. And then we have something called contingency reserve. So reserve funds to address any unforeseen risk, change in requirements, or other uncertainties during the project. So typically 5 to 10% of the overall project cost. So when adding up all these direct and indirect costs, the overall project cost is typically the sum of the direct cost and a percentage of the indirect cost. So the total percentage of the indirect cost can vary, but it's normally in the range of 20 to 30% of the overall project cost. So the percentage provide are basically approximate and of course may differ based on the nature of the project and the organization. So it is important to conduct a detailed project cost estimation early in the project planning phase, and to considering the specific need and circumstances of the project, and of course to regularly monitor and adjust the budget throughout the project, which is again very important to ensure a accurate financial management. So with this, let's move on. Okay, so can you tell us of steps would you take to factor you will consider to ensure accurate and a comprehensive budget that align with the project requirement and objective? So again, there are a lot of question on budget. There is one more question on budget. So I think they are focusing more on this part. So let's see. So see this, the answer to this question is very vast. We're not going to cover that everything in detail, but I would like to provide you with a brief summary of all the key points. So as a project manager, the first thing is you have to define the project scope and objective. So you have to clearly define the project scope and objective in collaboration with the stakeholders. So the factors which are important over here is that specific features and functionalities required should be there, and the stakeholder expectations and the success criteria should also mention in this project scope and objective. Now the second thing is we have to identify and list all the deliverables that the project aim to produce. So again, the important thing over is the detailed documentation of each deliverables and dependencies between these deliverables. So that is again important. The next thing is WBS. Now, if we create a detail, we have to create a detail work down work breakdown structure WBS to break down the project into a manageable task. So again, the important thing is granularity of task, like how much we can break those tasks, and of course the dependency and the sequencing of the task. So that's again an important thing. Next thing, which is resource. So you have to estimate the types and the quantities of resources that is required for each task. So when I say resource, it not mean only the people, but there are a lot of different things. So that's why I'm using the word resource. So yeah, important thing is, yes, skill levels and expertise of the team members and their availability, full time, part time, how much allocation, 30%, 20%, and any other thing which is required, tools and all those things. Okay. Now the other important point, the next thing is we have to estimate the time that is required for each task and create a project timeline. So uh, all the historical data from the similar project play a very important role if you have any similar kind of project, so that will help. And of course the task dependencies and constraint. So friend, all those things you will find in your all those documentation which we have done initially with the sales team, right? Next thing is you have to calculate the cost for each task based on the resource estimate and time estimate. So all those things are done pretty easily if you are using some tool, for example Microsoft Project Plan. So here you have to factor your direct cost, your indirect cost. So I think this is in line the previous question, this question. Okay. And then when we talk about this detailed project plan, so we have risk management. So we have to identify potential risk and uncertainties that could impact the budget. Now in risk management, the important thing is maintaining the risk register. So there we should have a probability and the impact of risk. So when we multiply this, we will get that factor. So if you've not seen that risk register, let me know. I will maybe create a specific session only on how to calculate the risk and all. Okay. After that, we have stakeholder. So yeah, so we have to collaborate with the key stakeholders to validate the budget estimate, and we have to ensure the alignment with their expectation. So any specific budgetary constraint or priorities, we need to tell them. And the next thing is, of course, we have to document all the aspects of the budget that include all the assumptions, constraint, and yeah, we have to also establish a tracking mechanism. So the important thing is we have to regularly review our budgets and updates, and we have to any documentation of changes and approvals should be also should be there in this particular timeline. Then we have quality assurance, again important point. So we should include cost for quality assurance activities, for example testing tools, resources, right? So any quality assurance process or methodologies or any testing environment and tools should be part of that. Then we have management reserve. So we should also allocate a percentage of budget. We also discussed this, right, in a previous answer. For any changes or any addition, if anything is required, right? So if there, let's say there is change in the project scope, or let's say there is some unexpected challenges that will come during the execution, so that is there. The reserve should be there. Then we should have a contingency plan. So let's say for any kind of risk or uncertainties, right, we should always ready with our contingency plan. So mitigation strategies for high impact risk, and regularly update and review the contingency plan. That's again a important thing. Next come is approval process. So we should also establish a clear approval process for the budget that involves the any key stakeholders and the decision makers basically. So we have to formalize the review and the approval stages, and of course the criteria for the budget adjustment. And of course, in the last, we have to regularly monitor the actual expenditure against the budget, and we should adjust the budget as needed based on the change in the scope or any event that has been triggered, right? So, change control process and lesson learned for the future project is also the important factors which come under this. So, I try to put you in a very brief because it's very vast topic, but still I try to giving you all those pointers. So the point is regular reviews, communication, and adaptabilities are the key aspect in maintaining a successful budget throughout the project life cycle. So that's the simple answer. Let's move on. Okay. Which teams or roles apart from project managers are involved in the budgeting process within the software IT companies? Okay. Now there are, friends, lot of teams which are involved in budget, and if you're not aware about, India will know like you're not worked as a project manager. So basically, this question measures the candidate awareness of different stakeholders and their contribution to the budgeting process. Now, this indicate a broader understanding of the project ecosystem beyond the immediate responsibilities of a project manager. So, other than the project managers, there are many teams and roles which are important for budget management. So I'll try to give you the names of few teams and their specific roles. So the very first one is the finance team. Now, the finance professionals are responsible for overseeing the overall financial health of the organization. So they work closely with the project managers and other stakeholders to ensure that the budget align with the company's financial goals and policies. So finance team may provide insight into cost structure, financial forecasting, and the compliance related things. So that's the one thing, finance team. Then we have a accounting team. Now accounting team is responsible for recording and tracking the financial transactions. So they ensure that the expenses are accurately documented and financial reports are generated. So all these accounting professionals basically play a important role in providing the real-time financial data. They help project managers and stakeholders in making the informed decisions. Then there is something called cost estimator. It's not common, but yeah, I performed this role as a function point consultant in the past. So basically, the cost estimator basically specialized in assessing and estimating the costs associated with the specific project or task. So they use historical data, industry benchmark, and expert judgment to provide the accurate cost estimate. Now, their input is valuable during the early stages of the project planning and budgeting. Then we have a procurement team. Now, this team manage the all these goods and services needed for the project. So they work with the vendor, they negotiate contract, and they ensure that the cost associated with the procurement align within the budget. So that's again there. Then we have SMEs, which we already talked about, right? So development team leads are responsible for overseeing the software development process. So they play an important role in estimating the effort required for the development task, and they ensure that the allocated budget aligned with the technical requirement of the project. Then we have a HR department. So again, HR is involved in budgeting through managing the personal related costs. So this includes the salaries, benefit, training expense, and any other HR related cost. So this is again a important. Yeah. Then we have a legal and compliance team. So legal and compliance professionals ensure that the project adhere to the legal and the regulatory requirements. So they may involve in budgeting by providing guidance on compliance related costs such as license, permit, or any legal consultation. Then we have a project control team. So in a big, larger organization, right, project control teams may be responsible for monitoring and controlling the project cost. So this include like tracking expenditures, they analyze different variances, and they ensure that the projects stay within the budget constraint. And in the last, we have leadership, executive leadership. So all these executive and senior leaders also provide the strategic oversight and the guidance to the project manager. So they play a role in approving the budgets, setting financial goals, and ensure that the project align with the overall strategies objective of the organization. So yes, yeah, each team basically contribute unique expertise to the budgeting process. They have to ensure that the financial resources are allocated appropriately and in line with the company objective. So friends, I hope you find some value from this answer. Let's see. Let's move on. Okay. Yeah, this is little different. In a scenario where client is dissatisfied with the work delivered by your team, what step would you take as a project manager to address the situation? And they have given a scenario. So for example, in a demo, the user authentication feature worked perfectly, but in the production environment, user encounter login issues due to few differences. And yeah, so that's the question. So as a project manager, what you will do? So as a project manager, very first thing is promptly acknowledge the client concerns and express a commitment to resolve the issue. First of all, just response and acknowledge. That's the very important thing, right? So I have to ensure as a PM that the client feel heard and understood, that okay, their problem there now is there and we understood their problem statement. Now what else we can do? The very first thing is, of course, we have to initiate the analysis of our discrepancy. So how we can do that? We initiate a detailed analysis to understand the root cause of this particular login issue. So this may involve collaboration with the developer testers to review the code base, examine the authentication service integration, and maybe scrutinize the database configuration. The next thing is, of course, there will be different logs. So you have to utilize the log files and error tracking tools to identify any differences or error messages related with the authentication process, right? So uh, there may be steps involved, let's say for example, server logs, application logs, right? Any other relevant error that is going to helpful, right? To pinpoint the issue. So that is what we are going to do. And then we will do the compare the testing and the demo environment with the production environment to identify any differences, right? So this include like verifying the stability of authentication services versions, database configuration, and any external dependencies between the environment. Now we have to validate the integration with external authentication services, right, to ensure that the client credentials are processed accurately. If the differences are found, we have to collaborate with the dev teams to ensure the integration parameters and configuration should be in place, right? And then we have to review and compare the database configuration between the demo and the production environment. So we have to ensure that the database schemas or the user roles or the access permission align with the requirement and the expectation defined during the project planning. Now, the important thing is we have to maintain a transparent communication with the client throughout the analysis process. So we have to provide regular updates on the investigation progress. We have to share the insight into identify issues and outline the planned corrective actions. Right now, after that, we have to work on our corrective measures. Right, so we will work closely with our developers to implement a corrective measures based on our finding. So this may involve adjusting the code, maybe configuration files, or maybe updating the integration points to resolve the authentication discrepancies. Now, after implementing the changes, we must also conduct the thorough testing in an environment that closely mirrors the production setup. So this ensures that the corrective actions are address the issues and the authentication features function without a glitch across the different scenarios, right? And then comes the UAT part. So we have to now collaborate with the client to conduct the UAT in a control environment, where we have to verify that the login issues has been successfully resolved and that the authentication features align with the client expectations, right? And the last step is to document the identify issues, root cause, and implemented solutions. Now, all these experience, right, all these learning are the opportunities to refine the testing processes, to improve the deployment checklist, to enhance the communication strategies for our future projects, right? So it's very important to document. So after this, the last thing is post implementation support. So we have to offer a continuous support and monitoring, basically, that our corrective measures are implemented, basically, actually, right? So we have to address any other post production issues, and we have to again maintain a open communication with the client to ensure the satisfaction. So yes, by systematically addressing the root cause, implementing the corrective measures, and to maintain a transparent communication with the client, the project managers can ensure that the user authentication features aligned with the expectation into the production environment. So this is, friend, just an example. There might be a number of scenarios that has can be given to you, but then this is how you can break it down step by step. Okay. Okay, so yeah, friends, so this is, we are going to close this session here, but then we have I think 8 to 9 more questions after this as well. So of course part 2 will come soon, and as always, small request, if you find something useful, something valuable, don't forget to hit that like button, and see you soon in our next session. Thank you guys. Bye.